You might think that this is the main menu of Among Us, but it's actually running in the Godot game engine. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made it. First, I created a new project. I set my screen size to 1920 by 1080 and I set the default clear color to black. I created a new scene and started getting all the necessary assets. I already downloaded the background music, so I imported it in. The next step was getting all the different graphics for different UI elements. Things like buttons, the title, and the floating bodies in the background. This was relatively simple using Photoshop. I mainly used the lasso tool to cut out the graphics and export them as PNG files. I could have created my own textures, but I wanted this to look just like the original. Among Us has a very unique and simplistic art style. It's one of my favorite aspects of the game, so I wanted to keep that aspect of it. After getting all the graphics, I switched back to Godot and started adding them into the scene. I used a texture rect for the title and texture buttons for the buttons. I used HBox and VBox containers to lay out my elements. After comparing it to the real thing many times, I think I came pretty close. I forgot to add the exit button, but I'm going to come back to that later. In the meantime, I started working on the stars that are in the background. I used Godot's particle system to create them. I didn't use the default particle texture and instead got a different one from the internet. That's because I'm pretty sure Among Us uses Unity and Unity has a different particle texture as default. The stars are simple particles that are going left to right. I created 3 different particle systems to create a parallax effect. The smaller particles move the slowest and look like they're in the background, and the bigger ones move faster and look like they are closer to the screen. Working on the particles was fun, and I was pretty happy with the results, so I decided to move on. I added the music and started creating the floating bodies. I created a new scene called Body that only had a sprite node in it. I attached a script to this scene and gave it a random speed and a rotation. After I was done with the scene, I added 4 of these bodies to the main menu scene and gave them different textures. I positioned them somewhat randomly and ran the game to see what it looked like. It was at this point I realized that I was missing the exit button, so I quickly added that. I was pretty happy with how it looked like, so I tested it in full screen and compared it to the real game. I realized that the real menu had many more bodies compared to mine. So I decided to go back into Photoshop and get more body textures. And finally, after adding more bodies and laying them out, I was done.